Hello, this is QuickSkillz, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Kinhank Hyperspin 12TB hard drive loaded with over 40,000 games. This is an absolute gem for anyone looking to get into retro gaming, and today in this review I'll be going over all the things I love about this device and some things that I did not like about it. If you're shopping on Aliexpress, be sure to use the link found in this video because it'll direct you to the exact device found on this review. There's a lot of listings that are going to be very similar to this one but are going to be slightly different and not offer the same thing that I'm reviewing here today. The other cool thing is, as you can see, we're recording this on August 26, which means there's plenty of time to order this in time for Christmas. Also, if you're looking to get this for a present or any other kind of deadline involved, the delivery date is going to take 2 to 3 weeks, so make sure you order this in advance well before you actually need it. Before we start our review, let's take a look at the listing and see what it offers and what type of specifications are needed to run this device. If we look right here, there is a 12TB capacity, along with the ability to play PS4, PS3, and Nintendo Wii games, and it does offer a plug-and-play experience. As we scroll through this listing, we can see what type of PC can run the Hyperspin device. It does recommend a Windows 7 and above, and you can see here the graphical requirements needed to run this device. For the sake of this review, I am using an RTX 3080, so keep that in mind that your experience may vary if you do not have a good enough graphics card. The photos shown in this review are exactly how my hard drive was shipped to me, so we can see in this photo here there's a bubble wrap around a box. Inside, this is exactly what the box looked like when I received it, and as we scroll through the pictures we can see the 12TB hard drive along with all the connector cables included with it. My first complaint with this device is going to be that you do have to keep it plugged in, so make sure you keep that in mind, that whatever you're using this for, you will need to keep it under its own power supply. And one other thing, a compliment really, is that this USB cable is a high-speed transfer cable, so it did allow for me to run this device without any lag or data transferring from the hard drive to the computer. Once you receive your hard drive, you're going to want to plug it into your computer, and that's going to bring us to the next thing that I did not like about the Hyperspin, and that's that you're going to need to install some things before you get to playing. And so, to their credit, they did provide an insert that includes step-by-step what you'll need to install and how to do it, and if you do lose that, there is this FAQ folder that's going to get you up and running very quickly. Once you've installed everything that you need to get started, the next thing you're going to do is open up this arcade folder. Inside the arcade folder is everything that you're going to need to house the Hyperspin interface. This is going to include all your emulators and all your ROMs. You will not need to mess with this to play with your 12TB worth of games. Now, before we load up the Hyperspin interface, I do want to let you know that this is going to be a very long review, so be sure to use the chapters that I've highlighted in this video to skip ahead to something that you think is going to be the deciding factor as to whether or not you want to buy this device or not. There are 12 terabytes worth of games on this device, so I cannot possibly review everything. So if there is something that you're thinking that you want to know before buying this device, be sure to drop me a comment in this video. I'll do my best to either A, answer the question, or B, show you on another video your question in action. Okay, I have the Hyperspin interface loaded up on my screen, and as you can see, it's very chaotic. This is actually one of my minor complaints with this device, is that the interface is very hard to get used to. On the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can see that there's 102,000 games loaded in this, and keep in mind that that includes all the duplicate games. So the fact that the listing only shows 40,000 games is great because that's actually in line with all the single games that you'll be able to play. The other 60,000 on this device are going to be duplicates of the same exact games found through multiple consoles and multiple different states. Okay, before we review any games, let's go through all the subcategories found on the Hyperspin interface. Now, one of the downsides to this is that since there are so many subcategories found on this device, it's going to take a long time to find the specific game you're looking for. And so if I'm just looking for N64, you saw how long I had to hold down on the D-pad, and I just luckily got onto N64. But now let's go to Sega Dreamcast. And I'm gonna let go. Okay, well, I'm in the Sega category, but I'm not anywhere near the Dreamcast. So there's the Dreamcast, and I'm actually making this look quite easy, but it's not that easy, because now let's say I want to look for the Xbox. Well, Xbox is actually under Microsoft, so we would have to go back up to find Xbox. And here's Nintendo grouped way out of the way from all the other Nintendo games. I have no idea why that's there. But what's cool about this is that you will find games that you've never heard of going through these subcategories. The downside is that when you're looking for a specific category, it is very hard to find just the N64 or just the Sega Dreamcast or just the Wii, because there's so many categories and I can't find a way to get rid of them. Now that we've gone through some of the subcategories found on the Hyperspin, you are going to want to get familiar with the controls so that way you can interact with the interface. You can use your controller or your keyboard, whichever is easiest for you, and some of the ones that I like to use a lot are going to be the Y button for favorite and the S button or the left stick on your Bluetooth controller to search for a game. Those are the ones that I usually use very often. And then if we look at the select and the pause button, those are the way you're going to insert a coin or start a game. And then to exit, you're going to push start and select at the same time, or escape. And what's funny is some games, if I do pause and select at the same time, it doesn't do anything. So I have to do escape to get out of those games for whatever reason. The next thing we're going to take a look at is going to be machine settings. This is either going to be something you really like or really hate, depending on the type of person you are. I'm kind of in the middle because I do like the simplicity of this interface. However, the downside is that you are limited to the customizations found under this settings. However, if it is not found under here, you're not going to be able to tinker with a lot of the games internally. And what I found is that there are some games that I really want to play and I cannot get them to run, and all I want to do is switch from one emulator to the next to see if that works, and there is not a way to do it, not on a specific game or console. And maybe I'm crazy, maybe you can leave me a comment below if you have this device and you figure out how to switch emulators, but I find myself wanting to play this Star Wars game. I've played it at the arcade, I know it works, but I cannot run it because there's a specific thing that I'm not doing right and I don't know how to change it, and that picture is unrelated to the bezel, so that won't fix my problem. So again, you might like this because there is a very limited ways that you can screw up this device working for you. However, if you come across a game that you're trying to get to work, you're probably not going to be able to get it to work, and it's best to just move on. I do promise that if you come across a game that you cannot get to work, you're going to have so many other games to play. It should not matter, but it will hurt a little bit when there's like a game like this Star Wars game that you just can't figure out how to get to play. So as you saw earlier, there are a ton of subcategories to search for the game that you're looking for. However, the easiest way to find the game that you're looking for is to go to All Games. I just pushed the letter A on my controller and it is taking about 30 seconds to load up this menu. That is because it is loading all 102,000 games for you to search for. And so what you're going to do is when you load up your All Games category, you're going to type in the letter S on your keyboard or just push the left joystick in on your controller and you'll be able to search for whatever game you want. You don't have to know the full title. You can type in a grouping of letters. The more specific you can get, the easier it's going to be to find the game that you're looking for. So if we type in Zelda, you can see it has all the Zeldas now. The advantage here is that you'll be able to find any game that you're looking for. The downside is you will need to know a lot about the title and ways to narrow it down, because if we use the word dragon, for instance, you're going to see how generic that is and that there are hundreds of games with the name dragon. So you'll have to come up with creative ways to find the game that you're looking for if you don't remember the exact title of the game. Now this is going to bring us up to Black Dragon. This is a game that I encountered a glitch, or not really a glitch, but a common complaint that I have with the system is that the controls aren't always going to be configured the way that you want it to work. So let's load it up and give it a go. Now when you play one of these arcade games, select is going to put credits into the console and start's going to start the game. And so as we load up the game, one of the things I noticed is that I was not able to utilize all the controls of the game. And part of the reason is that some of these games, when you load them up, so right here I cannot jump, I can duck, I can move left and right, but I cannot jump, I cannot attack. And so what I need to do, and this isn't something that's going to be very easily explained to you, and this isn't meant to be a tips and tricks on how to use this device, but this is very important to play a lot of these games. You're going to have to push the tab button, and that's going to open up a sub-menu that if you do not know exists, it's going to be kind of hard to play this game. And so what we're going to do is we're going to input, and I'm going to use this machine because I just want to make sure the controls for this game, this machine works. And so what I have to do is under player 1, I actually have to put in the controls. So you can see player 1 is defaulting to control for button 1 and alt for button 2. So if I'm going to use the keyboard, that's great. But if I'm using the D-pad, the only buttons that are programmed in are the D-pad. And so what I have to do is I have to push A to select it, and then I have to push the button that I want. So I'm going to push B on my controller, and then we're going to push A again, and then we're going to push A. And so now, if I want to control my character, I can use my controller to control this character. And for player 2, you see there's nothing programmed in, so I have to have player 2 programmed in. If I have a second controller, I'll be able to modify it. Now there's certain things you can do from this menu, but I'm not going to mess with it because there is a ton of stuff. So now we can see my character can run and jump. This is going to be a complaint that you're going to have on a lot of the arcade cabinet games. I find that the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, the Sega, all of those games are going to be pretty much configured the way you would expect them to be. We'll take a look at some in this video, but arcade games, that tip right there is really a complaint, because without that, knowing to push tab on your keyboard, you're going to think a lot of these arcade games just won't work. And so hopefully that saves you a lot of the hassle that I had to find the hard way. For what it's worth, you're probably not buying this device to play old school games, so you are probably wanting to play a PS5 game, PS4 game, so let's start reviewing those. If we look at the category for PlayStation 5, we have Elden Ring and Final Fantasy VII, the remake. I'm going to jump into Elden Ring because I know that one's going to load right into the game. And what I'm doing here is I'm just loading it up. I don't think I've played Elden Ring on this exact device. So the black screen that we see here is the actual loading time. Oh, it says I've played it 6 times. So I don't remember playing it, but it says I played it for 14 minutes. But what I want to say is we're going to see a PS5 game in action. My mouse is controlling this right here, and my controller is connected to the computer. So that is one of the things that you'll have to get used to, is that if you're looking for just using a controller, you might not be able to do that. You might want to use your, oh, and I do have a continue, sweet. You might have to use your mouse and keyboard if that's easier for you. That's something that you'll just have to get used to. So here we see Elden Ring is loaded up. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm rolling around. The graphics look really great. Of course, that is operating off the hard drive, or operating off my computer. And I don't know why the screen went black there. I don't know if that was a cutscene that I skipped ahead or a loading screen. But you can see here, my computer is what's powering Elden Ring. So I don't know if your graphics are going to look as nice as mine, but here we do have Elden Ring and it is working great. So we're going to exit out of here. Start and select is exiting out of the game, where that other game we played, Black Dragon, I had to hit escape on my keyboard. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at PS4, because I have a feeling that PS4 is another category that you would like to try. And so we do have the new Marvel and Capcom Infinite loading up. This is a PS4 game. We're going to see how it functions. Again, I'm not surprised that it works. The game is here. It is powered off of my computer. And so my computer is more than capable of handling this game, but it is nice to see that the ROM is working. There doesn't seem to be any stuttering, any delay. It's working just fine. Inputs all seem very clean and smooth. For a PS4 game, there are no complaints here, and I can't verify if the button mapping is where it needs to be. If we push tab, nothing happens. That was unique to the arcade cabinet games, so tab's not going to help us if button mapping, but a lot of these games have ways to customize the button mapping, so it's not like an old school arcade cabinet where you can't access that information. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of this game. We can see PS4 games are working just fine. Now we're going to go to PS3. This is Soul Calibur 5 on the PS3. There was probably about 20 games in that carousel of games. Not as many as the PS4. I think the PS4 had a few more. PS5, there was only 2 games. And so we do have the game running. Just trying to jump into a match. And again, if I didn't mention this before, the sound is not going to come through. I have it muted just for copyright reasons. I don't know if I'm going to play a game that has music issues. I don't know if the lighting on this level is supposed to be like that, but I have played a lot of Soul Calibur games, and horizontal is like the left button, top button is a vertical hit, and the right button is a guard. Oh no, actually kick? Yeah, so I would have to remap this game, because kick should be on the right of the button scheme, and guard should be the down button on the button scheme. So everything seems to be out of place. To get the mapping exactly right, I would have to remap this controller. So I don't know if that's unique to this game or if that's going to be a common issue with all PS3 games, but I know the mapping to Soul Calibur games, and this is not ideal. But I believe we can remap right here. Control settings, yeah. So you would be able to remap if you needed to. So let's go ahead and exit out of a PS3 game and switch over to PS2. We're actually not going to test the PS2. I have no doubts that the capabilities of my computer will be able to run PS2, and you can take it on my word that I have loaded up the PS2 and played these games, so I can verify that they work. But I want to show you all the games that are here under PS2. It feels like a complete catalog, however there are games that are missing because I have found a few that I want to play that are PS2 games, and they're just not in here. So it is not a complete list of PS2 games. And what's cool is that there's PS2 Europe, and then there's PS2, and I'm guessing that's just American. But some games are going to be unique to the European market, have a different title, but it's the same game. And other games are simply going to be found under the American PS2. So be sure to toggle between both. We do have PlayStation. I don't know what the SHM up means. I don't know if that means smash up. But we do have a category here for PlayStation. We do have the American and Japanese PlayStation and all the games. And it does seem like a pretty complete catalog. I'm sure there's going to be a game or two that's missing in here. But for the most part, it is a very complete catalog of PlayStation games and Japanese PlayStation games. So there was just a release in Japan. You can find that game here. So that pretty much takes us through all of the PlayStation category. Now that we've gone through all the PlayStation games, I want to show you one of my favorite picks from this whole thing, and that's going to be the Pinball FX2 and the Pinball FX3. I haven't played Pinball FX2, but if you recall, Pinball FX got a lot of heat because they upgraded to 3 and you had to rebuy the same tables that you've bought under 2 and play them to play them under FX3. Now it doesn't matter what you pick here, it's going to load up the same FX3 hub, and from that hub you're going to see that we have 93 FX pinball tables installed, and they're usually about $20 to $30 a table, and you can see my collection 93. We're going to scroll through and see all the pinball tables that come included. This alone right here is an amazing collection of pinball games. And if you're not into pinball, you should be, but I do want to show you it in action. And you know, Marvel's real big right now. Let's see what we have. We have Wolverine, we have Deadpool. I wish we could mash them together, but we're gonna load it up. And you can see FX3 Pinball works. It's beautiful. The graphics are great. A lot of fun. The sound effects are amazing. All I'm doing to play this game is I'm hitting left and right on the triggers to play pinball. And each pinball table is unique. They all have their own rules. If you ever played Space Cadet Pinball on your old school computer, this is 10 times better than that. And again, there's 93 in FX3. I don't know how many come included in FX2, but FX3 is the graphically superior version of pinball. So, you know, just 93 of the better pinball tables shown here. But as you can see, Deadpool is working quite well. I don't have other tables that I want to show you right now, but I could literally play these pinball tables all day long and never get bored. So under Nintendo, we do have a lot of categories like the Switch, the prototypes, the GameCube. First, we're going to start off with the Switch and then move over to the Wii. I didn't see the Wii on there, but let's see how many games we have under the Switch. So a lot of these games still $20, $30, $40. If these work, that's a great find. Let's just jump into something easy. Super Mario Deluxe. And again, it says I've played it 3 times. I don't recall playing this, but we'll see. I must have really bad memory because, well, it says I only played 56 seconds. So if I did play this, maybe it was just to load it up to see if it worked, but I have no recollection of recently playing Super Mario Deluxe. And so the graphics look pretty good. So we're in a different language, which is fine. I'm pushing L and R, and I cannot get this controller to work. If we push Tab or Q, I pushed Q to exit. I couldn't get the controller to work, and I think there is a way to get the controller to pick up. System controls. So it has Pro Controller. Keyboard, there we go. So we're going to do that one. Apply. Let's see if that, yep. So that's showing it's working. Okay. Boom. So it's a different language, but I got it connected. And you see that's one of the downsides with this is that to troubleshoot, there really isn't a support. There isn't much you can do. So we're going to exit out of here. Exit out of the game. Try something. Well, let's go back to Super Mario. And let's see if it remembers what I did through the sub menu. And all I did was hit escape to minimize the screen. And then from there I went to configure and I was able to select the controller. So let's see if it remembered. Configure and then controls. So it does remember Xbox One controller. I'm going to cancel and it does remember the controller. And then under view we want to go back to full screen. And the language, I can live with it. You can put your phone up to the screen and translate with Google Glass. So I'm pretty fine with that. And it's a Mario game. They're pretty self-explanatory. There's not a lot of reading involved. So I'm fine for being able to play this game right here, $40. This game, if I beat it, that's saving me $40 on a newer, I think it came out in 2019. So yeah, I'm playing this game. Seems to be working just fine. No input delay, no stuttering. But I'll have to experiment with this game. But this is a lot of fun. You can see I get lost in these games pretty easily. So the Switch works. Let's move over to the GameCube. That one has a lot of games on here. And I'm just gonna scroll down as fast as I can. Let's go to Double Dash. That should be pretty easy to jump in and out of. It says I played it one time, and I was system time, or total played 35 seconds. So let's see. GameCube has so many good games, and it's a system that you're probably going to spend $150 to $200 to get a working one nowadays, and then the games are just ridiculously expensive. So again, if this works, it doesn't seem to be in a foreign language, which is great. One player. Let's do time trial. And I'm pushing right trigger A, seeing which one's the gas. Okay, so B on my controller is the gas. So finding out the controls is really where it's at. And you can see I'm drifting. I don't know how to use the items. Since it's emulated, you're gonna have to figure out the controls on your own. The in-game controls aren't gonna match up perfectly, because I'm not even using the GameCube controller, obviously. So we're going to exit out of GameCube. I have no doubts that the GameCube games are going to work. They're definitely a lot better than the Xbox games that we encountered, the Wii U. And let's see what we have. We have Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, so let's give it a go. So I went ahead and skipped the intro to Breath of the Wild. It takes about 2 minutes to get to this scene in the game, and unfortunately I do have to report that the game is unplayable. The frame rate is just horrendous on this game, and I honestly would not buy this hard drive to play any Wii U games. Now, I did just test this one game. It is possible that another game could be working, but you can see here Link is jumping and there's some frame rate drops. This is not going to be a game you're going to want to buy the hard drive for. The next thing we're going to test is going to be the Wii, and for the Wii, I have a suspicion that the Wiimote games are not going to work because they do require peripherals, which, unless you have those peripherals, those light sensors in a Wiimote, I don't know if it's worth trying to emulate it. And you can see here I loaded up a Mario game that did not require a Wiimote. All you had to do was hold the controller sideways. So if you look through a list of Wii games that require no Wiimote, I have no doubt that they're going to work, and they're going to work very well. So you can see here I'm playing the game. There was no lag, no stuttering. The inputs were right on par. And that's going to conclude all the consoles that I'm going to review today. However, I will say that if you are in the market for buying this specific 12TB hard drive, remember to use the link found in this video, because that'll direct you to this exact device that I'm reviewing. And you can even drop me a comment with a game or console you want me to test. If I find that everything's working as expected, I'll let you know. And if there's something that I need to make a video on, I'll make a video showing you why to buy this or not to buy it for one reason or the other. The other thing is that if you are wanting to save some money, I did review a cheaper 4TB hard drive, and in that console, you are going to have some of the pros of this device not found in the 4TB hard drive. However, some of the cons of the 12TB hard drive are actually remedied in the 4TB hard drive. So watch that video and compare to this one and see which one is more your style. And that's going to take us to the final verdict for the 12TB Kinhank Hyperspin hard drive, and overwhelmingly this is a must-have for anyone that's looking to build a retro collection instantly. When you look at the cost, $160 is right in line with a 12TB hard drive with nothing loaded on it. So at the very least, you have a 12TB hard drive now. Otherwise, every game in here is not going to work or is going to require some configuration at some point. I would estimate about 80% of the games are going to work just fine. 10% of the time you might encounter a problem you'll have to configure on the back end by hitting tab or some other trick to get it to work. The other 10% you might not figure out how to work. It doesn't mean it can't work, it just means that it's too difficult for the average person to figure out, and there's not a lot of support online to help you figure this device out to launch whatever it is you're trying to play. So the pros are going to be that Kinhank Hyperspin has its own launcher, and all the games are going to launch from it. That alone is quite amazing, because some of these games you would expect to load in a retro console and some you would expect to load off of Launchbox. You will not need to do that here. The cons are going to be that it is very difficult to access some of the back-end ways to configure the games. That may be a positive for someone that's not looking to do a lot of configuring. However, when you encounter a problem, and I know I've mentioned this many times, you're not going to have a lot of options to fix it. Well, that concludes my review today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.